Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of GeekVerse podcast. I am the heir, Taylor Field.
And I am the Prince of Dragonstone, Kirklin Patzer.
Yes, and we are here because the newest prequel series for Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, has dropped, and we are diving back into I was going to call it Middle Earth for a second.
It's got those feels.
Yeah, we're going
Westeros, right? Is that
Westeros.
what it's
Thank
called?
you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, good job. So yeah, we're back in here. Before we get into our non-spoilers and spoilers thoughts for episode 1 of season 1. Couple of plugs. You can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook. And you can find us on our Patreon. You get ad-free exclusive early episodes, and you can get a whole bunch of content. Kirkland's on top of it with that little banner there. It's beautiful. But yeah, you get tons of fantastic content on there. On top of that, I mean, I don't normally shout them out, but I got to this time. Yeah, our patron producers, Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Smalley Biggs, Joshua Wright, you are like each an infinity stone on that gauntlet. And it's just packing a punch. Can't thank you enough for being there and helping us do all that we do. So shout outs to all you folks. Other than that, I'm trying to think, what do we got? We're retrospecting Lord of the Rings.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
We're having lots of fun. Those are, I think the Hobbits are released right now. I'll have to double check what's released on there, at least for, the Patreons. But we've recorded up until Two Towers, and that's been a very, very fun just retro to go through. It's very fitting, like it's separate from Game of Thrones, but I feel like Game of Thrones has a lot of inspiration from Tolkien's universe and stuff. It's similar vein too, just that like, yeah, I feel like this is a little bit less high fantasy because there's not really elves and stuff, but you still got dragons and stuff in there, so it's singing to the same tune, I would say. And us, we love that era, so it's been a very fun I keep calling it Fellowship, unfortunately. Just retrospective for Lord of the Rings for some reason.
Do you feel like you're cheating on your franchise doing Game of Thrones right now?
No, not at all. There's
good.
room in my heart for all these different franchises, right?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, you got that code down below. Get 20% off Manscaped with the free shipping promo code GVPOD at manscaped.com. And on top of that, I'm trying to think anything else that we want to plug or shout out.
You got the big heavy hitters. I think that's good. Check us out Patreon. Shout out the website. All that good stuff.
Yeah. Shout outs to the Bad Daddy. 20 minutes left in my viewing. I believe Bad Daddy, that's you, Greg, is it not? I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I've seen Bad Daddy in the chat. Yeah,
I think he's a new icon too. It's throwing me off. It's a gorgeous icon, but yes, I believe it's
definitely
new.
Well, enjoy the last little bit of your viewing, Greg. We're going to get into this now. So, Kirkland, actually, let me know your history with Game of Thrones, because I don't think you're actually on the review when we did like season 8 last.
No, I wasn't. Game of Thrones it's definitely got a place in my heart. I feel like it's not like a special, like, what would it be called, like a private residence in my heart, like some other things like Lord of the Rings, but I still really enjoy it. I think I jumped into it when the first 2 seasons were out. My dad had told me about it, and I was like, okay, let's check it out. First episode just totally got me hooked, and then I had watched up until, I guess season 2 was finished, and then right at that time, season 3 was airing, so I was kind of watching that as it was coming out, and then after that, I think I just didn't have, like, access to Crave or something, so I would have to watch it, like, later on, and then I just fell behind, and I just didn't keep watching it, and then years later, when I met Shay, she hadn't seen it, so she was going through it for the first time, so it was an excuse to power through it, and I think that was when season 8 was coming out, but of course, we were, like, early on in the show, and yeah, no, I absolutely love it. I really, really hated how the series ended. And I choose my words wisely there, because I think there is still some fun things that happen in season 8. Like, there was just like the visuals alone. Like, it's just such a beautiful show, I guess, for lack of a better word. Like, all like the sets and the dragons, of course, look gorgeous, and like the costumes, so I could always appreciate for that level. But yeah, I was definitely upset with some story decisions, and even not just like only in season 8. I feel like there's a couple moments throughout the series that just really upset me, and that was I mean, spoilers for the show, if you're watching this, I'm assuming that you've seen Game of Thrones. It's not like this will really, I don't think the show in general will be spoiling like the end show, so you could probably watch it without knowing the events, at least how Game of Thrones ended. But alas, just, certain deaths, maybe that's the best way to go about it. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones, I'll just avoid names. There were some major deaths early on in that show that really just hurt me in my heart. I was a big Stark boy, so that one didn't go too well. But yeah, no, Game of Thrones is awesome, and I feel like I had like no hype going into this series until I got like one of those earlier trailers and just seeing the dragons and Westeros again, and again like the costumes. Like I always appreciate just the quality and attention to detail that they have, and it was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm ready to, the old saying, I'm ready to get hurt again. No, hopefully that's not the case. I'm ready to jump back into Westeros though, and yeah, just be in this world. And I think it's one of those cases where, like, I've heard some people make the argument of like, well, we already know like how this is gonna end, so like, why should I be that hyped for it? I feel like I just don't really know too much about the Targaryens, so for me, this is still really fresh. Even though like when I hear like the Mad King and of course Daenerys, it's like, okay, I know those characters, but there's just so many names that it's easy to I think just completely forget about it. And I think that kind of helps because there is this sort of mystery like during the show of like, like I know about the apocalypse that's going to be coming, like when winter comes and all that stuff, but just the I'm able to enjoy, I think, the journey, and I think that's a benefit for me going into this series. So but yeah, no. So Game of Thrones, I really like, and I have all the books. I haven't read them, but that's like a bucket list thing. One day I'll go through those books. They're pretty dense and just long, and there's like 8 of them, I think. So I'll get to them one day. I'm not, I'm still like going through those Halo books, so I have so many things to read. Going through the Lord of the Rings too right now, so it's just a lot of different things to check off first. But yeah, without further ado, I'll pass it to you. What about you, Game of Thrones? I mean, yeah, you were on the review, you already said, but
Yeah,
did
I
you watch it
mean,
like from the first season, or did you jump into it like a little bit later, like I?
no, I was later. So my cousin was just ragging on it the whole time, not in a bad way, but in a good way. Like, yeah, you just gotta check it out. Like, it's so good, so good. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm busy. I'm playing Call of Duty. I got other priorities at this time, and that was a big mistake on my end because once season 3 or 4 was out, that's when I thought, okay, you know what? I was when I was still working at Target, before I
Mm,
met you guys. And season 1 was on sale. I thought, oh, you know what? It's Boxing Day. I'm gonna pick up season 1. Bought it for like $20, and I think I binged it all within a day. And I just thought this is incredible. It's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. So I
yeah.
went back next day, bought season 2, binged that. And yeah, okay, it would have been season 3 because season 3 I couldn't buy yet, but it had finished airing. So I thought, oh, I gotta wait for season 3. And I didn't have cable because I was still living at home. My mom didn't want to get cable. I didn't want to pay for cable. So
Classic.
yeah,
My
we're
parents
just
were the same.
yeah, it was kind of like an early, like a, yeah, it's a millennial thing, for
Yeah.
kids, our
You got
generation.
other
But
channels. Why do you have to pay for HBO and
exactly,
Crave?
exactly. So finally, I thought, okay, this is my routine. I got to wait for the season to come out a year later, avoid spoilers. And back then, internet, it was easier to avoid spoilers back then compared to now. So when it would come out on DVD, I just buy the box set right after. So I got my whole collection. I got
You're
the
gonna crack
collection
them
out in the
out.
living room. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
all 7 seasons. I haven't bought that 8th one yet, but uh,
No
yeah, I
rush on
have
that one.
no rush. Yeah, I have all of them, and I was just buying year after year. I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit when I got to season 4 because I was moving and just kind of like life stuff. And then when I like the shows were still coming out, and then season 8 started to go live, and I thought like, oh, okay, I really want to get back into it because I watched some of season 7, or no, sorry, I'm getting my dates confused. Season 7 was out, and I wanted to get into it, and that's when I met my wife, Madison. And so then she invited me over, and she's like, yeah, I love Game of Thrones. I was like, really, you like Game of Thrones? Like, you're so innocent. And she puts it on, and we start watching. I'm like, this is great. Okay, so we got caught up on season 7, and I did a whole rewatch in anticipation for season 8 because when I was going to school, I had several 2 week periods, and in one 2 week period, I binged the whole series up until like leading to season 8. It was fantastic. So that's kind of where I'm at. And Travis mentioned a really good thing about season 8, where it's people label it as just a bad season, but it's got bad episodes, but the overall season isn't necessarily
Yeah.
bad in my opinion. And I think again some of those episodes are incredible. They're absolutely fantastic. Are they the
Hmm.
best in the whole entire franchise? No, but they still deliver absolutely. And the way that show ended definitely, it wasn't a solid feeling. It was definitely something stirring inside me. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I wish it would have been something else. And I had my own fantasizing like outcomes of how it could have happened, everything like every other online
Are they
keyboard
sexual? I gotta
warrior.
ask, just through word
Oh, yeah,
choice there.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, here we are. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't super excited for this show, but I remember when it was announced, I thought it was just going ham, even though like things were murky after season 8. But here we are, and the trailers, they got me a little hyped, but mostly on the nostalgic factor. Like, oh, it's just things I'm familiar with, and I feel like they're taking advantage of that. But then,
It was still kind of
like,
working for you, but you're like, oh, these guys are taking advantage of me. So
yeah,
I'm kind of into it
exactly.
on it.
Yeah. And then we're like finally get into the moment of, which we'll get into our non-spoilers here shortly. It just absolutely it kicked in full swing, and I was hit with a good oops, Jesus Christ, I was hit with a good reminder of some things. But
You were hit hard right there.
I was hit hard, yeah. But before I get into my non-spoilers, I'm curious with your non-spoilers, Kirkland, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, so like I said, like I was actually getting pretty pumped for this one. And I again like I was kind of alluding to earlier, I feel like just because I don't really fully understand the whole Targaryen thing, like it is exciting for me because I'm still learning lots. It's still hitting those same beats of like the like court drama that Game of Thrones had, and I feel like I didn't realize that I liked that so much until I was watching it here, and because it's just like the king talking to his hand and like the what are they called, like the master of coin, and like just the different like court members, like I'm really loving those moments, and so of course this has it, and as well as all the other aesthetic things with their costumes, and just again like the budget that Game of Thrones as a show, and this one as well, House of the Dragon. I will say too, I always thought it was House of Dragons until I like turned it on. I'm like, House of the Dragon? I'm like, did they change the name at all? Then you like Google, it's like, oh no, I was just completely wrong there. Not House of multiple dragons, just House of the Dragon. But but yeah, no. So like the quality of the show, I think is just it's something that I'm gonna be able to just appreciate throughout this entire 10 episode season. Which I imagine it would just be the one season. Who knows? They have some time to cover, but
Yeah,
have they stated it's just like a one and done season? I can't
I'm
quite
not
remember
sure.
that.
I'm not sure actually.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so first episode, I think it was pretty great, honestly. I don't think it completely blew me away in the manner that Game of Thrones had, at least on like my first watch, but also like I had never seen like a show to this caliber, I think, before. So that first episode, it's kind of hard to compare it to this because I already kind of had a foundation of what Game of Thrones and Westeros is like, and then this is just kind of taking me back to that, and I think it did a good enough job for that, and I think if I was the type of fan that just being in Westeros like isn't enough, like I really need more than that, I still think this would have been like a really good episode because it is introducing just new players in the throne room. We recognize characters with silver hair and dragons and stuff like that before, but this is just on a different scale because it's like a different era when the Targaryens were just at the peak of their powers, and I think that's really fun. And yeah, no, I'm very excited to go into season or season 2 if it happens, but specifically episode 2 next week. Shay, as soon as it ended, she's like, "Oh, I'm so mad that we have to wait week by week for this because that's what we did." Like you were describing, like we binged that show like when she was going through it for the first time, and it's the type of thing that it ends on cliffhangers. So you're just like, "Are you kidding me? I gotta wait longer." So. But yeah, no, I think non-spoilers, more things I'll add is the characters. I am really liking Matt Smith. I've loved him in the things I've seen. Travis has said that like he's the type of actor that he's a great actor, but he's just not getting like put in the best things. So I'm really hoping that like this show just does him like a lot of justice because yeah, he was in Morbius. He was pretty good in Morbius, but that movie was just not the best. And he was fantastic in Last Night in Soho, but he was like a bit more of a villain in that in that movie. But like alas, I liked his performance in that, and I'm really liking the introduction to oh no, I said I have to pull up the IMDb because their names are just going to be confusing me. But Rhaenyra, like I really like that actress playing her. And yeah, like I think it was a good enough introduction to just back into Westeros in this new era, and yeah, it's got me wanting more.
I think the actress's name Millie O'Clock, I believe it is.
Yeah, something
Yes.
like that. Yeah, and like that's what surprised me too is when I pull up the IMDb, there's like multiple people. So I feel like I didn't know that there's going to be like time skips or something because it seems like there's multiple actresses playing different or sorry the same people. I don't know when those moments are going to be happening, but did
Really?
you know
Oh,
that?
damn.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Like,
because
I
there's
honestly,
Emma Darcy playing Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, and then you have Millie Alcock, Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen youth. So I would imagine. Oh yeah, young. So I don't know when those time skips are going to be happening, but
interesting. That
yeah,
makes sense because yeah, like I was looking at like the family tree, and yeah, just so many people have the same name in the Targaryen family. It's atrocious. Like I can't keep
yeah.
track of who's who, like what time frame. But in time
Oh
jumps, that's
yes.
interesting.
Yeah, Game of Thrones has always been that thing where like the names are just they just get so mixed up and like the Robs, like okay, those are easy to to remember like the regular names, but like very beautiful names and all that stuff, but it makes it harder to remember.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, for me, like I was kind of alluding to initially, once this show flopped on my TV, actually, first of all, Crave is a fucking garbage platform. Holy shit. So I booted it up. I'm gonna go on a little tangent here. I booted it up. And Kirkland's like, yeah, we're like, I'm in, like watching. I'm like, okay, this is great. Like he's in, I'm going in now. And like, I couldn't boot up the show. It would only populate the trailer. And I went to like their on-air sections because Crave has that in Canada, and it's playing it. It's like 15 minutes in. I can't rewind it. I can only pause it. I'm like, oh, I'm missing scenes here. This is horrible. Like, finally, I start refreshing the browser or the page, and it populates. I'm like, thank God I can get it and I can watch it. But yeah, it's Crave is trash. I hate that program so bloody much. Like, God.
Yes, no, I've ranted on it many times, especially like our Dexter New Blood reviews where I would be like ready to go and then I hit go and it's like subscribe to watch even though it's like showing the last episodes that I watched like have progress on it. Like it just didn't make sense. Then I'd like watch it on my iPad or something. Like it just God, they got to fix
Oh
that
yeah,
system.
they
And
really
it's
really
one of those
do.
things where it's like, oh, it's coming out on Crave. Like HBO, they make fantastic shows, but like I got to go through Crave for that. I don't think it's in America. I think they just have HBO Max. So hopefully that's I mean, see how long that lasts, but for the meantime they got HBO Max and hopefully it's easier to use than Crave cuz yes, I've had many curses thrown towards that streaming service.
Yeah, just garbage, just garbage. But
Hey, you're
once,
saying it flopped on your TV. I like that descriptive word.
yeah, I mean, it did flop on my TV. It was just so, yeah, God. But I mean, once the show populated, I was just back in this nostalgic kick. I was afraid that they were just using Game of Thrones tracks in the trailer to like reel me in as a fan, but hearing these tracks spliced with new themes and redone, like the score was fantastic in the show. I was like,
Yes.
oh, this is nostalgic with a little something new in there, and I'm really digging it. Getting back into the world. I was just getting excited with Madison, like pointing at. I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio leaning for pointing at the couch, like it's
With your
time in
drink.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was just like, oh, there's like this person, like just pointing things out. It's like, oh, this is so exciting, and it just it. If there wasn't any more, I feel like this episode as a whole would just like sum up like, you know what, here it is. We just had one-off episode of the show, and it basically just gave us every. You could watch this one episode and then just watch all of Game of Thrones, is what I'm saying, and that'd be fine. I'm not saying the show didn't end with a cliffhanger. These always do. It ends with a little bit of mystery and intrigue, but it had a good start, a good middle, and a good end to it, and it was well over an hour too. I think it was just another like extra like 10 minutes or something like that over an
Yeah,
hour.
something like
So
that. 110.
yeah, and overall, like I thought it was a super strong start. I really really liked it, and it just served as a great reminder as to like, yeah, they do not hold back in this world with these things. They did a little bit of
Yes.
everything, and there are some scenes like. Oh, I picked a poor dinner choice tonight to watch in a certain moment. It was just really rough. I was
Oh
looking at
yes, I know what you're talking
Madison.
about. Yeah,
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like I was reminded just how brutal Westeros is and it's like, oh yeah, this is HBO Max. They do just show very vulgar things, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
I like I was like folding laundry while I'm watching. Look up, just someone gets their not a spoiler. Someone gets their absolute face just bashed in. It's like, oh yeah, that happens in this type of show. I forgot about this.
Yeah.
This is different from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Definitely don't hold back. But yeah, so far, very strong start, and I'm excited to get into a little bit of spoilers here.
I like what you said about the score and the themes and stuff because I feel like it majority of the like the music and the score is a new sound it's okay, this is new for House of the Dragon, but it just had these like undertones of like just like the Game of Thrones theme, and I like it because it separates it from just feeling exactly like Game of Thrones. It's more of like a Westeros theme, like okay, yeah, this is the world that we're in, and when you hear, I don't know if it's like a violin or something, just like that string sound coming in, it's like, oh yes, this is where we are right now, and it really just helps build the I guess the immersion of the world of Westeros. And yeah, I really appreciated the like just even from the trailers. I feel like I have the same thought of you. It's like, oh, are they just banking on my Game of Thrones love, because that just has such an iconic theme that like I absolutely love it. But watching the show, it seems like it's spread out and has a very healthy balance of fresh and new, whereas I feel like it has more fresh than older themes, but together it just really makes this beautiful milkshake that's easily palatable.
I like that. Well, you have anything else on the spoilers before we jump to our first ad break?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we will be right back and get into some spoilers. And we're back. So, where do you think we should start, Kirklin? What's the age-old question?
I don't have anyone to. I mean, I feel like you'll agree with me if we can just start from the beginning.
I mean, I got one thing I feel like I can get out of the way if you like.
Yeah, do it. No, absolutely.
So yeah, I
always get flack. It's like, oh, we got to start from the beginning, but like that's the best way to go about it sometimes. But sorry, you can take
this is kind of near the beginning, but like I was frying up some hot dogs, okay, and
where are you now?
Yeah, frying up the hot dogs, for me and Madison to eat for dinner, and I'm eating one, it's great, and I just look up at the screen, and this guy gets his cock lobbed off and thrown on this like plate thing. I'm like, oh man, this is really not right. I don't feel
That's
good.
Hilarious. Were you like mid bite too, and you just like put down
I was halfway through that. It was a big smoky, and he logged off someone's smoky. That's for sure. It's very unfortunate.
It's happened before in Game of Thrones. I wasn't expecting it to happen in the first episode of House of the Dragon. But yeah, no, it's funny because you were, alluding to that in the non-spoiler section. That's not the scene I specifically thought you were mentioning to it. I mean, for me, it was like the birth scene, like the childbirth scene. It was just like very graphic, and it's just like, oh, this is really happening. It's just such a nasty subject matter that it's like, I feel like all of those things on top. But there was just also multiple moments of it, right? Like when Daemon Targaryen is just like, I think I called it like the reverse purge, when the cops are just going out and just like murdering all the criminals. And it was just, again, very vulgar, and I just completely forgot that kind of thing happens in this type of show, at least to that level. But it's good. I know what to expect going into episode 2. So if they crank up the volume on on that or just the vulgarness, I think I'll be a little bit more prepared for it. But yeah, no, that's funny. I completely, especially if you're eating hot dogs, that's a certain food I feel like I would maybe avoid going forward with the show, because it probably won't be the first or the last wiener that gets cut off in the show.
No, that's a shout out to another Game of Thrones episode when Theon Greyjoy got his thing snipped off.
Yes.
And I should remember his son. Yeah, Reek was his name. Yeah, the other guy that held him captive, I should remember his son, but
Ramsay.
Ramsay Bolton, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just eating the sausage in front of Theon. Oh my god.
Was that you in front of
that
the
was
TV?
Me, yeah.
Channeling your inner Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, there we go. Where do we steer from there?
Yeah, I mean, going off that name, I feel like that's a good segue to take me from, or let me rephrase that. Take me away from the start of the show, like I might have normally would have started from. And I was gonna just say, like, I feel like it's really cool to just see like familiar names, and not like first names. It's like house names, like the Baratheons and things like that, and just seeing their sigils and really just like reminding me like how established like some of these family names are in the world of Westeros. And I feel like that's something that's just really exciting for me, watching a show like this that just takes place so much earlier than like Game of Thrones and like that timeline that I'm already familiar with. And it has me excited going to Rings of Power. Like I just love hearing about certain things that are still like maybe talked about like hundreds or if not thousands of years in the case of Rings of Power. But like, yeah, like when they're in King's Landing and like they're literally in these same chambers that like someone like Jamie, like was sitting there. And I feel like just I don't know. It's a very nerdy thing for me, but like it's just like, man, this is history. Like they're in the same realm, and like I'm really interested by history, so like I feel like that's another thing about it where it's just like this is just so old, and like we're standing in the same spot that this person was. This is a fake world, but still, like I get that vibe while watching it, and it probably makes me appreciate this like a prequel type story just so much more, as opposed to just being like, well, I know how this is going to end. It's like, no, this is like a big deal because this person is in the same throne, that this character was later on. And then when they're talking about like the significance of a Targaryen in the throne, and then I'm thinking of like where Dany was like way later on in the show. So all of those moments are really cool for me. And yeah, like the tournament, for example, like just seeing the different sigils and familiar family names that, of course, they're very relevant in the Game of Thrones era show. I loved all that stuff. And again, just like I think it's another thing of just like the visuals and like attention to detail on like their armors and everything, and like still being very true to the family look. I think you could call it, for lack of a better term. Like even like we got a Stark in this episode, right? And like he's got like the fur cloak and everything, and like a very Stark traditional outfit. And even like the gentleman that was playing that character, I missed his name. I'll have to pull it up, but he just looked like he looked like someone that is from oh my gosh, what's it called?
Winterfell?
Sorry, say oh yeah.
Because that was Rickon Stark, right, at the very end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
that got me so pumped.
Familiar name. But yeah, what about you? Just again, like getting the Baratheons and like seeing those sigils, and like it's funny how like these types of characters are like loyal to at least the Targaryen bloodline, and then you hear. And I think this is about like 170 years before like the events of the Mad King, it says in the beginning. 172, I think it says specifically. But like right now, like they're super loyal, but fitting with Game of Thrones, no one's really loyal to anyone in the Game of Thrones.
No, yeah. So I mean, that revolt with the Baratheons and the Mad King would have been when Daenerys and them were born. So
yeah,
I mean, we're at least like 2-3 generations away from that. And I mean, that excites me. Being in the show and seeing those familiar things and those names, like the Baratheon banners. Like I was calling them out with Madison. We're trying to figure out like, okay, like, yeah, here's 2 Baratheons here. This is cool. And I'm looking for Starks, looking for all these different things. And
I saw the Lannister symbol too. We didn't meet one
yet.
Did
you see the Lannister?
It was the golden lion, right, with like the red sigil. It was on the post, like where the jousting thing was. And even going through IMDb, I saw someone with the Lannister name. Maybe I won't say too much because it'll probably be a cool reveal when we get there. But yeah, no, again, just a very like obviously the Lannisters are a very powerful name in the Westeros world. So it's just seeing that sort of thing, and as you mentioned, just like being able to like look at the sigils and like just trying to like remember. Oh yeah, no, I think I remember that one.
Yeah, well, there's some other houses too, and maybe the High Towers were mentioned in Game of Thrones. I can't remember. And then Valerion, I believe that they were I think they were mentioning Game of Thrones. Again, these are all, I'm just coming back to this world. I didn't read the book, so this is all just kind of like reminding me and bringing me back into this into Westeros here. And just the biggest kicker was at the very end there when it's like, yeah, Rickon's House Stark, pledges allegiance. I'm just, oh my God, I loved it. It's just like he came right off the wall. He was wearing his frickin' I don't want it robes. Like, it's just so
She's
good.
McQueen.
Yeah. Yeah, I was ready to go back to the north. Oh, I can't wait. But yeah, it was super giddy. It was super cool just to be familiar. It's just a whole plethora of Easter eggs basically that's just roping you in, and I love it. And I know, again, not to bag on Travis here, but I know he has a beef with prequel stuff, but I think it's just in the sense where where it's gonna go, like you have that, but seeing this story unfold, even though it's a prequel in the past, it's still a few generations before Game of Thrones. It had a pleasant amount of surprises that were super shocking in terms of like the family name when we get to what the Targaryens are trying to do, and we learn the baseline of, okay, they're trying to have a son, another heir to the throne, and it doesn't really go well. Did you want to talk about that now, or do you have any other like name stuff you wanted to hint at?
No, yeah, I feel like again, because it's just they hit you so many names like right off the gate. It's tough to kind of remember like the significance of certain ones. Like even a name like Viserys. Like okay, I've heard that name before, but like I really don't remember.
Is it a
remember, like,
dragon or is it a
yeah,
Targaryen?
yeah, and like even that, like the Targaryens' names are just so similar. Like it's a dragon type name. So sometimes they're talking about their dragons. Like I'm lost here. But so I'm maybe like throughout the show, like they'll just become a lot more familiar, and then eventually I'm gonna rewatch Game of Thrones, and hopefully what this show does is it gets that passion back for Game of Thrones where it makes me want to revisit it. And like as you were mentioning, like if it gets to the place where like this is just such a phenomenal start to lead into Game of Thrones, like this could be a new thing where you start with this type of like with this show and then lead into it, and it just feels like one total cohesive story. I think that could be a very positive outcome of this show, of just making making Game of Thrones just very relevant again, and making people wanting more, because we're already getting that Kit Harington sequel series thing, right? With
Yes.
I don't know all the details on that, but still, it's when he's going off into the north. So yeah, like even just where I'm at right now, like my hype level in Game of Thrones is definitely cranked up a few notches. But yeah, no, I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yeah, so when we kind of get brought into this story here, we see, okay, that a son is trying to be born for the Targaryen heir, and it's not going very well. We learn that obviously Viserys' wife has had many different miscarriages over the past years, and it's not going well. And then he's put in this
5 and 10
position.
years, she
Yeah,
says.
that's brutal. Oh God! And now he's put in a position where he's got to choose either his wife to die, keep the baby, or yeah, it's not going good.
No.
Not going good at all. Someone's not making it out of here. And unfortunately, neither of them made it out of there. And that was again, another one of those plot twists I was alluding to, where as a prequel thing, like we know where it goes, but it's just the adventure of experiencing this because it's like, okay, we saw the baby was alive, and then you see the pyre for the wife, the queen. And it's just like, oh my God, that's brutal. It's horrible. And then it pans over and you see like the little wrappings for the baby. It's like, oh
yeah.
shit, like, God damn, just brutal. And now it leaves you with like, okay, what's going to happen? This is just going to go sideways. I'm curious what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, that was a very like gut wrenching reveal, I think, because they don't say like right away that the baby like was even like dying. It's just like the maester, I think that's what they call them. He's holding the baby, and then he just gets like one cough in, and then he looks a little concerned, and then it just kind of cuts, and then you see the pyre of the mom, which like the maester, the Grand Maester Mellos. Thank you, IMDb, for the cast list right there. He's he lays it out to Viserys that like you have to choose between one or the other, or you'll probably lose both. And then he thinks he makes the gut wrenching decision to like sacrifice his wife, which he does, and like that's a very, very hard pill to swallow. And like that whole sequence is just very, very unsettling, right? Where like the queen's realizing what's happening, and like just you can only imagine all of the different emotions and thoughts going through the brain of just like completely betrayed, right, by like the man that she loves, and just terrified. And it's just it's a very, very unsettling sequence. And then it's like very long too, and they show quite a bit of just like all the blood and stuff, and that's where I just was kind of squirming. It's like, oh, this is terrible. And again, like it's just in that era where like the woman, even though she's queen, like she just has no say in the matter. Like her body is literally just like a device to make an heir for the king, and it's just it's so barbaric. And then like it, and for me in that moment too, because I don't know like the whole Targaryen family tree by heart, I'm just like, I feel like this is gonna be a daughter, honestly, and this is gonna be like a big reveal that he like made the wrong choice, and it's gonna be like very bitter. And then it's like, no, he's got a son. It's like, oh wow, look at that, it kind of worked out. Like he really believed that he was gonna get a son, and then that's what happened. And then, as I mentioned, like you don't really get a lot of moment to like stew on that scene, because it just cuts, and then you see the pyre, and then it shows like the little baby wrapping. And like I think just like one of the saddest things ever is just like a baby coffin or like a baby funeral thing like that. So like just to have it, like the mom there, and then it's revealed that like that's how you find out is like the baby wrapped up like that. Is just it like Shay and I was just like audibly like gasped. It was like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. Like again in first episode, right? Like it really just sets the tone of like Westeros is fucking dark and sad things happen with it. You know, like I think I got that realization at the end of season 1 in Game of Thrones when Eddard Stark got chopped off, my favorite character at the time. So yeah, no, that was very, very wild. I will say though, like just the overall setting of that funeral, absolutely gorgeous. Just like on the
Mm-hmm.
cliffside, and you have that dragon standing up there, like when it panned over, like I just said to Shay, I'm like, this looks so like. Of course, I didn't see the baby at the time, but I was just like, this looks so fucking cool. Like just like the
It's how
giant
you want to
dragon.
go out.
Yeah, no, maybe worst case scenario, a dragon lights me up and cremates me. I think that'd be pretty sweet. But no, just like the aesthetic too of like all the Targaryens wearing black, and again, it just I'm probably gonna be just like keep repeating myself throughout the series of just visually this show looks so good. All the costumes and everything. I will say too, like I feel like the silver hair, it probably looks the best on Rhaenyra. Like for like
Mm.
everyone else, it's just okay. It's a little wig, especially like Matt Smith. Like I've never seen him with that type of hair before, right? Like he's usually got dark, short hair, so he's just got this like very long silver hair. Maybe it's one of those things that as we go on through the series, I'll just get more used to it. But as of right now, I feel like the only real believable one is Rhaenyra, because everyone else is just like, this looks so strange. Just all these silver-haired people, and like Daenerys, like in Game of Thrones, like Emilia Clarke, I feel like that one looked pretty good too, but it was also just like one character, other than her brother. But of course, her brother meets a fairly early end in that series. But yeah, no, that was a very gut wrenching just moment of okay, no, this is very on par with Game of Thrones. Of just no
Mm-hmm.
happy endings, really.
No, I like what you said about the hair thing. Is every time I see like Matt Smith, I just think like, oh my god, like we're going to see the elves, Rivendell, like just or not
Really,
Rivendell,
yeah, totally.
Lothlorien,
Eh?
Lothlorien
Yeah,
elves.
it's like where is Gandalf?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Where is me? Uh,
Um, I guess moving on from that, because yeah, that whole sequence is just brutal. But we learn that the king is obviously suffering from some kind of ailment. Um,
yeah, he's not doing too good. He's got
yeah,
he's
and
got pudding in his coming out of his back that they're scooping out there.
oh, that's grody. I think there's a grayscale. I think that's what it is, because that's what was
Oh,
suffering to
okay.
some people. And yeah, it's a dread and usually fatal disease that can leave flesh stiff and dead, and the skin is cracked and flaking and stone-like to the touch. And I'm pretty sure, like when they were like peeling it, I thought because
He
it
was gooing up
happened.
though. That's where it looked like pudding, sort of, right? Because they're
Yeah,
like
it's
mixing it up with that
true.
spoon.
I'm just wondering if this
It's
is
like
like
want a
an
bite.
early on thing. I want to bite, gross. Because Jorah Mormont, he was suffering from that, and yeah, because they would like peel the scab off, and
Right.
then it
I
would like
remember
have
that.
that goopy thing that would come off. It would
Okay.
be super
Yeah.
gross. So yeah, I'm
Whatever it is, he's
wondering.
not doing too well.
No, he's not doing too well. Yeah, it's not going to be very good. Yeah, it's very ill-timed, but I mean, it ends with them basically him labeling his heir, which is good because Matt Smith's just buggering off now.
Yeah, he's doing whatever the fuck he wants, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's one of those things too where like there was a lot of pressure for them to like obviously announce an heir, and like it seems like he's kind of rushing against the clock to like his wife was pregnant, and that was the big deal. Is like this is gonna be it. This is gonna be my son. This is gonna be like the legitimate heir, or the uncontested heir, I think is the term that they were throwing around. And because at the time, like you didn't even get that scene of them, like picking at his scabs and just commenting on how it's not looking good for this king, because he looks pretty healthy, like in the court scenes, or what would it be called, like the king's council, I
Yeah,
guess,
just
something like that.
counsel. Yeah.
Yeah, so in those council scenes, like it doesn't look like the king's coughing up blood or anything. So when they were like pushing to get this heir, I just took it like, okay, well, it's a dangerous world. They probably just need to have a legitimate heir because anything can really happen, right? Pardon me. So I yeah, and then we got that scene of him like getting the goo. Like again, it's not a good looking wound, but like he doesn't look like Tony Stark in Iron Man 2 where he's
Mm.
like taking over his whole body. It's like, oh, this guy's obviously very visually done. Just yeah, not doing too well here. But I think just again with the type of characters that we're getting introduced of, like Matt Smith, like already Matt Smith, Daemon Targaryen, I guess I can call him by his character's name. Like when he was sitting on like the Iron Throne, and then you have Rhaenyra, like again, just like being very vocal of like she seems like she's kind of get gypped, and at that point too, like we had already gotten that sort of flashback of I forget her name, the queen that never was.
Oh right, yes, that was that's the wife of the Corlys Valerian. That's his wife. His wife was, I got it here, Rhaenys Targaryen, I believe.
Yeah, so like just that they were hinting at that, and then of course we have this another like female character who's kind of in the exact same situation that she is. And again, I've seen the trailers, I've seen the posters, I know this character is like the main character, so it's like okay, I kind of know where the show's going to be going. So I wasn't too surprised in that sense of how that was going to go about. But like getting that reveal, I think it made it a little bit different to the fact that like okay, I know this guy's gonna get offed somehow at some point in the show. It's not gonna be on a wild boar hunt or something like this, or like in battle. Like this is probably what's gonna take him. And I feel like on that note, I wasn't, I don't know, I was kind of in the middle. I was kind of lukewarm on just how the pieces were getting set up to fall in place, if that makes any sense there. But I think just the overall how we're going along this journey, it's keeping me intrigued enough. And again, like all the just the Game of Thrones like games that they play, air quotes, but like that's what they do. Like all of these moves that get played behind the scenes, the cloak and dagger stuff. Like I think that's just really appealing to me. So if the show just keeps going in that direction, I think I'm totally gonna be in on it every single episode week by week. But
yeah. I thought it was funny how this show kind of paralleled a lot of elements of the first season. We got the familiarity of just some jousting games, just like we did in that first season. And then just a couple of deaths and some shock and awe moments and some betrayal. But getting into just the debacle with Daemon Targaryen and just his kind of ruthlessness, and the gold cloaks, again, they're featured in Game of Thrones as well. They're the ones that are like they have like the gold mesh chain over their faces in the Game of Thrones series.
Right.
But very cool to see them like in this iteration with like capes and stuff like that. Not loyal to the throne whatsoever, completely loyal to their captain of the guard, Daemon Targaryen. And yeah, it just Damon's motives with them is just very, very ill, not good intentions at all. And again, we get to visit some whorehouses that he seems to be proficiently attending all the time. Just seeing Matt Smith in the setting is like, oh my goodness, Matt Smith, this is very different.
I know what happens in Westeros, but I wasn't expecting to see Matt Smith's booty in the first episode there. But yeah, not looking too bad.
No.
Yeah. Anything else on that topic there?
Well, just his goals and agenda. Like he's very ruthless. He's very evil, and I'm just wondering, like it's gonna bite him in the butt. I'm imagining at some point. But he storms off. He was basically just decommissioned. He was thinking he was gonna get his shot at the throne here. That was stripped away from him, and now. I mean, they even had an emphasis on the scene when he's meeting with oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on her name? Renaria.
Oh, oh no, Rhaenyra. There we go.
Thank you. Yes, I
just had it. Then you said it weird, and it threw my brain off.
So she attended the Iron Throne Room, and he was already sitting in there, and then he gave her like this Valyrian steel necklace pendant to her, and just the way they were kind of like motioning, they're like, okay, like I know that there's obviously a lot of like keep it in the family kind of stuff that the Targaryens are about, and
all in Game of Thrones, Lannisters, Targaryens,
absolutely.
All of that.
So I wasn't sure, like, okay, are we getting into this now? Is that what they're alluding to here? But no, it just seems like he's just like just an uncle and niece kind of like relationship dynamic.
I mean, that's what Shay thinks is gonna happen. Shay thinks they're gonna be pairing up and getting it on. And I'm like, honestly, I've seen it before in Game of Thrones. It totally could happen, and it's one of those things too of like, okay, you have like the king and the queen, and it's just like both of them have like this silver hair, and like all of these characters have silver hair. It's like, okay, they're definitely not not mix it out and, and separate that bloodline too much. I would imagine if everybody just has the same hairdo, and I don't think they have the best hair dyers back in the Westeros days there. Maybe they did. Maybe I'm completely wrong there, but still, it's just it's a funny visual thing. Just be like, okay, this is. It's like you see a video and it's just like, okay, these people are clearly related in this regard, and we're just seeing all these family members with just looking very similar with the silver hair. The silver hair is a big giveaway, I would say.
It is, yeah, definitely. It's
sorry.
funny it's funny you mentioned like her, what Shay thought like her being with the uncle, because then you have that little intrigue of where that other jouster who appeared and like pulled
Oh
someone
yeah,
off
the one
caught
that
attention.
messed up. Yeah, the one that messed him up, right?
Messed up Daemon Targaryen. It's like, oh, then you learn that he's Dornish. Like, oh god, like yeah, the inhabitants of Dorne, like Prince Oberyn Tyrell, like just
Oh
thinking, like, all
yes,
these
my favorite
characters.
character,
Yeah,
Sir Kristen Cole. That was his name. Really
Kristen
cool
Cole.
name. I love it. It's like a superhero name right there, or like a 007 agent. You know, like a very just badass dude's name. But just back on Damon. Yeah, I feel like that was something, like, obviously I've seen the trailers, but I didn't like dissect them. And as we were getting closer to the show release, I didn't want to rewatch them because I just wanted to go in as fresh as possible. I feel like that's whenever I can do that, I prefer to go that route. And it kind of surprised me, honestly, that he was this way. I was like totally wild and pretty rash and just like very very outspoken in a way that like I feel like would probably get him in trouble, and it did. Like by the end of this episode, obviously, like he wasn't too afraid to just voice his own opinion on the situation of him possibly becoming the new heir, even though it cost him the life of his brand new nephew. It's a very dark thing to be like cheering in that moment. Now, I'm sure he wasn't sober, you know. I'm sure there was some wild scents going around in that brothel, the pleasure house as they called it. So maybe that was in a contributing factor, but I still think he's this type of character that very much has his own goals and plans, and that I think that was shown pretty evident in the first episode, where he's very vocal of like wanting more and wanting and having that ambition to want to be in the Iron Throne, and it's just such a theme throughout all of Game of Thrones, right? So very fitting that this character would have that same thing in mind, especially if your brother is the king. Like I feel like that would always have some resentment towards that character of him wanting to be it himself. And like, you know, like he's definitely showing qualities of like a badass king. Like he can clearly handle himself in a fight, and he looks so badass on that horse too. The armor that he has, and like the armor that his horse wears. Oh man, like just the dragon armor alone. And again, he's got like the red feather thing, or you know what I'm talking about. I don't know what it's called, but like just the helmet hair and then his own like silver hair coming through the helmet. It's just such a sweet look. So that looks badass. So I'm like, man, if I was a foot soldier and I saw that guy leading me into battle, like I would be motivated. I would have that morale. So like he has that type of attribute, but again, it's so much more to be king, right, than just being that. And I feel like maybe he could be mirroring certain attributes that and like I don't know all about the Mad King, but like I don't know, I feel like if Daemon was king and he was very just what's the term I'm looking for? Like just very quick to make decisions and like very spiteful. Yeah, he could go that route, and he could be seen as a Mad King. And it seems like there was already a character that they mentioned. Oh, it started with an M. I already forgot the name, but it's like they were saying that like he could be another one of those types, and it seems like this Mad King quality is something that could possibly be just plaguing the Targaryen bloodline, because even Daenerys kind of shows that. I mean, she goes full that route by the end of season 8, right? So I think it's a very interesting dynamic having this character, because like his dynamic with Rhaenyra, it's a very interesting one, where like Rhaenyra seems like she is more on like the level-headed side than what he would be, but she still has like a lot of love for her uncle. It's shown, and like it seems like they have their own kind of personal relationship, especially like at the funeral, right? Like she shows a lot of spite for her dad in that moment, like totally just basically threw her mom, like murdered her mom, like made that decision to just allow that to happen. And he's just kind of always ignored her through her whole life because she wasn't a son. So like she has a lot of resentment for him. And it seems like the uncle was one of those situations where because she's not her, or because he's not her dad, like he isn't like a target, or not a target, but like just an enemy in her eyes, of like this person just puts me in this certain category where like Damon probably just always, like had appreciation for her and just was like a friendly uncle towards her. So, and yeah, like brought her gifts and stuff. So I'm very intrigued going forward with the series, just how that relationship goes through. Because essentially, like, she just stole his, she didn't steal it, but she has his role now, right? So if he had already had resentment for his brother, I imagine, even if it's not said right away, I would imagine there's some underlying resentment for Rhaenyra, even though it might be drawn more so on like the position that she now holds and like the situation that she kind of like, like got put into, but also like she always kind of wanted this, right? So I'm very excited just how that dynamic's going to be going forward, because I know, like, it's Matt Smith. He's a big prominent actor. He's going to be in this show like the whole season. So I'm very excited just how that relationship ebbs and flows, and how when they have disagreements, like how far does it go, right? Like is one of them, I mean, like by the time we get to Game of Thrones, all these characters are going to be dead. But by the end of this season, like, is one of them going to bite the dust, or is one of them going to flourish and it's going to cost one of the others? I think that's a very exciting thing going forward, because I didn't expect it to be that sort of plot going forward, at least in this season. So
Yeah, I'm surprised too that they accelerated it as well. Like, they brought in Daemon Targaryen and his brothers on the throne, just calling him out. Like, did you call my child heir for the day, like for a day? Like, just horrible things to say.
yeah,
And
jeez,
so, yeah, just not good. And so he's already to pull like his Kingsguard on him and just basically disbands him. Says, hey, go back to your wife, get out of here. And he gets on his dragon and he leaves, but no, he takes his favorite lady with him,
yeah,
not his wife.
favorite courtesan, yeah.
Oh yeah, she's got big aspirations, that's for sure, for him and where she wants her standing.
It's like it's like, when you have like a, it's funny, I can bring up like the Flash Thompson example from Spider-Man. It's like, hey babe, check out my new ride. It's like, this is so much cooler if you have like a full dragon. Hey,
Oh
give me your
yeah.
hand. You want to feel a real dragon? Like, no one gets that opportunity, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot more dragons in this era of Westeros, but it just still, like, just, it's such a wild thing to be able to touch, let alone like be able to ride, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just looking up like that dragon's name. I believe it's Caraxes. Yeah, Wheel's dark sister, Caraxes. Yeah, Caraxes is freaking awesome because like when it flew
Sweet name.
off, it had like the wings on its back hind legs a little bit too. Like I just
Right.
love the design.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And like, it was funny because when it showed Damon with his dragon, you just said it, but it already slipped through my brain
Caraxes.
cracks. Caraxes, sick name. Yeah, I love that. But it like shows the two of them, and I like pointed, or I turned to Shay. I'm like, look, like his dragon even looks like him. They're just like evil characters. Like, they're just so fitting, right?
Yeah.
But it's, I love dragons in Game of Thrones, and we had them like so. Like, we had 3 of them, and they weren't in it like that early in the show, so we really like, and even for a big chunk, like they were very young. Like, it wasn't really till later on in the series when we had the fully grown dragons, and they were popping off. And to just have like tons of them already established in this world, that's another just very exciting thing. Like, we don't have to work up to it. Like, they're already popping off. They're already just very relevant, and people just know about them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good highlighted scene as well when you have King's Landing and then you have basically one dragon like flying over and you learn, okay, it's just Rhaenyra just returning back and it's the dragon's flying over. The people are just not even focused on the dragon. They're just doing day-to-day livelihood stuff. And I like that because it goes hand in hand with what you said. It's just the norm back then. So I have to
Absolutely.
correct myself earlier because I said Oberyn Tyrell. It's not Tyrell. It's Oberyn Martell. Tyrells are a different family altogether. I just had to clear my name because I'm sure there's some listeners here that are like gritting their teeth, like, oh, that fucking Taylor guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So I had to clear my name, clear
The
the clean
Tyrell, that's
slate.
like Marjorie Tyrell, right?
Marjorie Tyrell, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Very. Again, another iconic family.
Yeah.
Oh, we take a quick ad break, and then we'll keep going up from that point on. So we will be right back. And we're back. So yeah, I mean, I spoke a lot on like just the whole Matt Smith, or gosh, I keep calling them by their first names. I'm like, I'm like Taylor Field or something. Daemon Targaryen and the Rhaenyra Targaryen dynamic, and just the ebb and flow of that going forward for this season has me really intrigued. What about you, Taylor? Are you really intrigued on just how that relationship is gonna go about? Are you on like a particular side right now? You're like, oh, Daemon, he's gonna be the king. He's it was his birthright. He's the one true male. No queen should be or no female should be queen.
I feel like I got a pretty good read on people, and Damon needs to stay far away from that throne. No,
Yeah.
out of there. I'm all about Rhaenyra. Like, let's get her on that throne. Let's have her rule. I'm ready for her reign. She's super knowledgeable. She's super powerful. I really love her character. I think the actress again is doing a fantastic job, and I feel like the relationship what I could blossom into between her and her uncle, I don't know yet, because she just seems to have this kind of like fixation. Like when she sees him jousting, she just kind of like smiles at him, like she's friendly with him, and I don't know, not even like a cheeky way, but just like a like I don't even know what the word would be. Like, oh, there's something there, and they're gonna build off that, and that's what I'm excited to see what comes to fruition, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But with his motives now, there's always betrayal in Game of Thrones families and houses. So I'm wondering, for him, is she expendable? Is he going to go and cross the line here when he's going after her father? What is that line that's drawn there? And I feel like whatever happens will have a big implication of Rhaenys Targaryen, the cousin of Daemon and Viserys, I believe. So she was the one, like the queen that was not to
Queen that never
be.
was.
Yeah, queen that never was. So I feel like when they were unveiling that, okay, Rhaenyra was becoming the new heir, and then they were emphasizing on Rhaenys Targaryen, just her standing there looking at her, and I felt like I almost took it as like she really liked seeing this, like it was a good like way to honor her almost
Yeah.
because she wasn't the queen.
That's another thing that I'm very excited for, like seeing those two on screen together, and just like, is she gonna be again like spiteful for this character? 'Cause it's like, oh, you're in a situation that I always wanted my whole life, and I never got the chance to, or is it gonna be like, this is awesome, like, this is what I always wanted, and now you are in that position, and I've been around. The older ladies throughout Game of Thrones are always just very wise, and they have a lot of information to share, I would say, at least in previous Game of Thrones seasons and stuff. So I think I'm kind of hoping for that, because like you said, I'm definitely kind of rooting for the Rhaenyra character to be just very clever in the throne, because she is very young, at least at this point. So multiple characters could possibly take advantage of that and kind of manipulate and mold her to like fit their own agenda, which we've seen many times before in the past, or in the future, I guess, in this chronological timeline. But I'm because like what was her name? Rhaenys, something like that.
Yeah, Rhaenys.
Yeah, okay. Again, I think it's the NYS. There's so many of the like end of those in the Targaryen families that they totally get mixed up in my mind. But anyways, that character, I'm just very excited to see how what cards she shows, and what kind of side she chooses, and who she wants to support and stuff going forward. Because she wasn't really that relevant in this episode. Like, obviously we talk about her and she's kind of the background, but she doesn't say that much. And I don't think she ever spoke to Rhaenyra at any point. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah. Just kind of moving on with like to another family here with the Hand of the King, which is Otto Hightower. Now
this guy, I'm like, is he the same actor as Stannis? Like, I'm like, this guy looks so familiar to him.
Okay.
Then I'm like, we got knockoff Stannis here.
Yeah, secondhand version Stannis.
Yeah. It isn't. I looked it up. It's a different actor. This guy was actually this guy was in No Way Home. Taylor, do you know what role he was?
Is his name oh God, I don't even know what his name here is. Is it
like the actor's name?
Rhys Ifans?
Yeah.
What did he play in No Way Home?
He might not have actually been in No Way Home, but his character was, at least. He was Dr. Connors. He was the lizard.
Oh,
Yes. I
oh,
didn't
is
even
it?
realize till I popped him up on IMDb because he's got like a little bit of facial hair in this, and again he doesn't talk like Dr. Connors whatsoever. But yeah,
Oh, and he
same.
plays Dr. Connors in the Amazing Spider-Man films too. No
Yeah, yeah,
way.
totally.
Unbelievable. Okay, yeah, definitely didn't get that. Okay. That's insane. Okay, yeah. No, yeah, he's an interesting character, and I like that he's very much opposing Daemon Targaryen. I like that stance on it because he feel like he has a good clear conscience on his head. But now he's doing things where I don't trust him because he's sending ravens that we're not able to learn about right now. And
Oh
he's like, okay,
yes.
daughter, get in there and go talk to the king. Put on your mother's dress. Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to do here?
Yeah, to send your daughter to I get it's the times and everything. It's just so strange. Just be like, "Oh yeah, go." Like this king just lost his wife and his daughter. Like, go seduce this guy. Go put on your mother's dress. Very bizarre dynamic. But again, it's I guess fitting with the times even though it's very very bizarre and weird. But the whole dynamic between those two beefing which is Damon and oh my gosh, Otto
Oh yeah.
Hightower.
Shut
That's
off, Otto.
fun too. Like, yeah, all the Spider-Man references the show's gonna have. But yeah, no, it's a very interesting dynamic, and I like just the usage of that daughter character. I'm curious because I feel like she's gotta like I don't know. Again, get in on the Game of Thrones game, so I feel like maybe I could see her possibly like be with Damon at some point. I know like he went over to get her favor right during the jousting tournament. I don't know if that was just to spite Otto. It probably
Oh
was
yeah.
big time, but still like it could flourish into something like elsewhere. And like I imagine that character is going to be again pretty relevant going forward, just because she's very friendly with Rhaenyra. That's shown there, but you know, like as we've seen in previous seasons of Game of Thrones and stuff, like those types of characters, like they have major roles to play, even if it's not like immediately shown. So
Hmm.
I'm very excited to see how that kind of develops because yeah, like is she gonna like again want to kind of get her own slice of power, or is she just gonna be happy for Rhaenyra? That's yet to be really revealed.
Hmm. Yeah, she had an interesting scene there at the jousting because her brother just got absolutely decked by Daemon Targaryen, and then yeah, Daemon just strolls over like,
That was a dirty
oh,
move too. Like
oh, I was
I
gonna
don't know
go
how
for the
jousting.
horse.
I don't know the full jousting rules or anything, but like there's no refs or anything. Like come on, that's an illegal
Yeah.
move, ref.
Oh, that was a very much an illegal move. Just went like I was afraid we were gonna get that reminiscent scene from Game of Thrones season one where the mountain just like jabs his spear into someone's neck. It's like holy shit. And I thought that's what was gonna happen here, but no, it's just yeah, it took out the horse and the horse went down. Like he's alive, but it didn't look good. Like he hit
I
something
think
on
he
his
lost his
face.
eye or
I think
something
so
because he like
too.
face planted, and when they lifted him up, like you just saw like blood where his eye was. It looked like his whole eye was just out. It's like,
Yeah.
man, do they not have neck straps on those helmets? Like
No,
Jesus, it probably could
probably
have
not.
helped.
Definitely not an ideal helmet because he had like a little like
Definitely
you know
not.
the rook piece, the castle and chest. He
Yeah.
had that like on top of his helmet. Like
Probably
not
gets
ideal.
caught in like if he's going into a tent or something. It's not very. It's all for show. It's not very practical, I'd
Yeah,
say.
definitely.
It looks cool, definitely. Like his whole armor
Hmm.
set, and again, like I just keep praising the costume designs and everything. Just the attention to detail to differentiate like each different armor type for that family. It's so cool to me. I love all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I necessarily have any more notes to really
Okay.
dive into.
Yeah, I mentioned the reverse purge. That was a pretty brutal scene when Damon just like leads his wolves are all howling, and like I don't even know how they're like finding these thieves. They're just like claiming people are thieves, chopping off
I don't
hands.
think they were thieves.
I found it funny though how like the first episode of Game of Thrones had Ned Stark performing an execution, chopping someone's head, and here you have Daemon Targaryen doing the exact same thing. We saw a lot more than just one single execution, but still he chopped off a head himself. It was a funny thing. Maybe with the Kit Harington series that comes out, there'll be an execution that first episode. I'll be keeping an eye out for that. But yeah, no, that was just a very very vulgar scene because of course you got the penis removal, you got just a lot of hands being chopped off, and it just really establishes the overall public order I could say for like what's going on in King's Landing, how like there's just so much crime, and like the fact that Damon says like they will fear like when they see like the gold, it's like, is that really how you want to run your your facility here? I get it, that old line. If it's like, if you can't be, or it's like, what is it? It's like, be loved or fear. If you can't be both, it's better to be feared than loved. Something like that. So maybe they're going that route, or they're just really trying to batten down. But I feel like they also just got dragons. That would probably be pretty intimidating in and of itself. But yeah, like again, it really lays the foundation of where King's Landing is right now, and it's always been that route too. Like even when the events of Game of Thrones, and when you have like Baratheon, and then of course the Lannister is not actually a Lannister, apparently he's still a Baratheon, like those types of rulers, it's still, King's Landing is just a very grimy, dirty place. A lot of brothels. It's probably like their main industry there. But yeah, no, it's again, it's still not doing great, because I was curious to know what the overall vibe was going to be like in King's Landing from this series, which is roughly 200 years before the events that Game of Thrones happens. It's just always a sketchy place, dirty, grimy place. Don't be out there past midnight or whatnot, and can't really trust the guards for too much, because they'll just call you a thief and chop your hand off, rapist, chop your wiener off,
chop your cock off. Yeah,
and like maybe they are like actual rapists and they kind of deserve it. So I don't know. There's no trials. It's just he points and they cut things off. So I would be indoors, I think, if I hear these golden capes coming around. That'd be pretty sketchy. I shouted out the funeral setting on just how gorgeous it looks, but even just the opening of this show, how we have that like throne room of them coming out, and they have where they list off that Viserys is going to be the new heir, not the queen that would be, forget her name, Rhaenys, thank you. Apologize to any like big Game of Thrones buffs. I'm gonna be butchering names. Hopefully, as like by episode 2, 3 go on, I'll really be nailing these names, especially recurring characters. But right now, I got to get back in the headspace for the Game of Thrones names, because like in my mind it's just Lord of the Rings names, and those are weird enough in and of itself, right? Like the throne room, it just looked so cool. It was very like, it looked very ancient. It looked like pieces of it were like kind of broken off, but it just had this aesthetic that it just looked very grand, and obviously like a royal family deserves to be in that setting there. And it wasn't even an Iron Throne at the time, so I'm curious if they explain like the foundations of the Iron Throne in this series, because in that moment, like that king was not on the Iron Throne. I know it was kind of melted by a dragon, I would imagine. And I think it said that it has like 1,000 swords or something, which is funny, because I remember like watching Game of Thrones, I had one friend, my one friend Tony, shouts out to Tony if he's listening to this. He was telling, because he had read like the books, and he was the one that actually got me in on the show, and he was saying like how inaccurate like that version was, and then in this series like you have so many more swords, so that was pretty cool seeing that different version of it. Again, maybe they just kept removing them, because clearly Viserys just kept fucking cutting himself on this throne. He needs to be wearing some Kevlar or something. Yeah, it's clear like it's his downfall even, right? Because that's where like that one wound was developed, was sitting on the Iron Throne, and
eventually.
Yeah, I'm interesting too. Like maybe if it's like a representation thing of, or wrong word, maybe like a symbolic thing of like this king doesn't really do much except for sit on his Iron Throne, and that was actually like the death of him. I'm curious if that has any meaning to it. It was a thought that bounced into my head. And because literally, like, he just got this disease from this wound that he just poked himself on this Iron Throne. And I'm curious if they explain why this one looks different from where we are, in the events of Dany and Robert Baratheon and all that stuff. But I pulled up in the I'll pull up the image right now for video viewers of like, this is like the concept art for the book version.
Jesus.
Again, like it's, like they're getting there from this series, but like that's probably 1,000 swords right there. And it just like looks so much more epic, right? Of like imagine walking up to that king, and it's just like you're so intimidated from just the throne alone. And it is cool that this version, it has a lot more swords than what the Game of Thrones version had. But still, it's not quite that. I feel like that book version is definitely pretty epic there. But yeah, I already shouted out the Stannis knockoff. The dragon armor was phenomenal. Shouted out. And yeah, again, just like all the attention to detail with all the the armor sets, but even like the royal gown that Rhaenyra was wearing, like when she was going to that.
Yes.
I don't think it's a crowning ceremony, but like an heir announcement ceremony might be a closer name for that. Is just really really cool, like headpiece that she wore, and just like the whole overall outfit. It looks really really cool, and yeah, no, I love it, and I think this is something that I was kind of mentioning, like going forward in like Rings of Power. Like no matter what happens, I feel like I'm just gonna be really really happy with the visuals of that show. Like just the scenes that they've shown, but also like the costumes, and it's the exact same thing with this almost called Game of Thrones House of the Dragon show, where it's just the dragons look phenomenal. We've only seen a handful of them yet. I know there's a lot more out there, and we will be seeing more later on in in a few episodes. So I'm excited for that, and just them even more in action. So we got the Dracarys, the classic,
Yeah.
the classic line of burn, or whatever that directly translates mean. Because what are they speaking there? It's like Valyrian. Is that actually what it is?
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, the old dragon speech there. So I'm excited to see some more dragons popping off. But no, yeah, the visuals look fantastic. You already mentioned the score and like the music and stuff, but I just want to bring it up again because it's so, it totally just gets you in that vibe. And again, like being back in King's Landing and like recognizing like familiar stairwells and stuff, like when at the opening of the show, like after we get that flashback sequence when Rhaenyra is like on her way, I believe, to like the King's Council thing, and then it's like, oh, where were you? You got to fill up our cups. What a turn of events, eh? Just a couple days later, she's like the cup pourer, and now she's the future heir of of the entire Westeros, the Seven Kingdoms and all that stuff. But I'm pretty sure that's like that same stairwell where the Hound fought the Mountain, right? And so like just seeing that scene. That's again what I was hinting to in the non-spoilers of like, I love just when they tread that same path, that in the chronological order we haven't gotten there yet, but it's like the viewers, like at least if you remember it, you can recall it, and it's just like, this is history that we're viewing right now. We're living through it, we're experiencing it, and for me at least, I really appreciate that stuff. So hopefully we just keep getting more of that going forward. And I think we're in for a really fun time. I'm so glad that it wasn't like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm gonna keep watching this show. That would have just been the worst, So
Yeah.
I'm really happy that Game of Thrones, or sorry, the world of Westeros is back. And I'm still wanting more of it. So that's sweet.
Yeah, I think as a show, if that's the one thing you can accomplish, that's perfect. Especially being in the same universe of a very well established franchise. I think coming back, making a powerful explosion like it did, and I mean, yeah, we're off to the races now. I had one more thing I forgot I wanted to shout out. So when you have the king, he basically has his dagger, and it's the Valyrian steel dagger. Now, until I'm told otherwise, the only other Valyrian steel dagger we've seen was used by Arya Stark to kill the Night King, and this dagger looks absolutely identical. And I'm assuming that this is the one and the same Valyrian steel dagger that has kind of made its way. So,
Yeah, interesting. I'll let's see if I can pull this up real quick, because it had like a red jewel in it, right?
It does, yeah. The hilt is made of like dragon bone, and the Valyrian steel part, and that's basically the dagger that was used to start the war in Game of Thrones, because Littlefinger gave it to some assassin, and the assassin used to try and kill Bran Stark, I think it was.
Yeah, no,
So.
it looks the exact same because it's got the red jewel and the dragon bone. So there you go.
Yeah.
Look at you pulling out these fine details.
Drinking, I know things.
I completely forgot about that detail that she had. That like I knew about the dagger and everything. Obviously, she popped off the Night King with it, but I didn't put two and two together there like you did. But that's a cool tie-in. And again, it's a history thing, like where this item has been. So later on, if I'm rewatching that sequence, it's like, oh, this is cool. Like this touched the hands of Rhaenyra way back when. And for me, it's probably a really nerdy thing, but I love that stuff. So thanks for pointing out that detail.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, that concludes everything I got.
Yeah, me too. So hopefully we just keep getting more on. I think on this caliber, I'm going to be super jazzed.
Yeah, sorry. I thought you were gonna keep going with that. I didn't know the period. Yeah, I couldn't
I
agree
didn't
more.
type it in. You know, it's like when I text, it's like accidentally put there in a question mark. It's like, Ron Burgundy.
Uh, yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Like we have a very very strong start here, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this goes. 10 episodes. I feel like we're going to get some serious shit hitting the fan in the next couple episodes. And like Game of Thrones has this usual track record of where the major ultimate kind of thing will go down in that penultimate episode, and then you have the finale to kind of cool down because it's like such a mental unload
Right.
process. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
they keep that up with this, and yeah, just keep things going on. Because yeah, again, there were so many cool things in this episode. We got to see Immersus back. We got like Aegon Targaryen's like his
Mm-hmm.
dragon skull in there and everything like that. I mean, it's such a big set
Totally.
piece. You gotta make more money off of it because I think they built that. It's a real practical effect.
Yeah.
So
They're still paying it off.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But
100%.
yeah, there you go. That concludes this first episode review of The House of the Dragon. And hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week, next Sunday, and do another one. Aside from that, yeah, you can find us all on our social media channels, everywhere on the internet. And yeah, we'll see you in the search bar.
Bye bye.